Let's try number 22. Find the zeros of these functions without using a calculator. So I want to find the zeros of f of x. Now, typically that means set equal to 0 and solve. However, when you have rational functions, there's one other condition you need to look for. You guys may have learned about this last year. Sometimes it gets skipped, and that is wholes or discontinuities. And these are going to be very, very important for next chapter. A whole is when you have a factor on top and bottom that cancels out. We need to look for that first before we do anything with zeros. So how to find that is we take f of x, and you're going to factor the top and the bottom. So the top is going to factor to x minus 2, x minus 1, and the bottom is x minus 1, x plus 1. And now we have to double check, are there any factors that are the same on top and bottom that we can cancel out? Well, yes, x minus 1's cancel. So we must do that first and simplify f of x to x minus 2, x plus 1. And that x minus 1 right there is a whole or a discontinuity, which we will talk about more next chapter. Now that we've simplified f of x, now we can set it equal to 0 and solve for the zeros. So multiply both sides by x plus 1. So you get x minus 2 equals 0. Add 2. So our 0 is x equals 2. Hopefully that helps with that one. Let's look at number 32. This one, the number one thing we need to think of is order of operations. So I'm going to think my transformations. This minus 1 is on the outside of the function f of x. It's inside the absolute values, but it's outside the function, and that's what we care about. So since it's outside the function, that's going to move up and down and be the same. So that means we're going to move down 1. Now if I'm thinking order of operation, I'm going to subtract that 1 before I do the absolute value. So let's do this transformation first, where we move everything down 1. We get this thing. This one, this one, this one, that one. That's our first thing, number 1. Now we want to deal with those absolute values. The absolute values are on the outside of the function. So if you remember those rules, that means we're going to reflect all negative pieces of the graph up. And that's the second thing we're doing. So I'm going to take each of these negative pieces and reflect them up. 1, 2, 3, so 1, 2, up here-ish. And then that one is at 0. So then we end up with that one. And that red one would be our final one. Hope that helps with that. Number 34, 12 of you asked for help with this one. This was the highest one. So what we're looking at, whenever it says solve something, if it doesn't say don't use a calculator, then use a calculator. Use a calculator whenever you want to, unless it specifically says not to. And this one even specifically says to use a calculator. So we are going to use a calculator for this. We're going to type this into y1 and type this into y2 and then graph them. So I'm going to pause it real quick while I do that, and then I'll show you what I get. Okay, I'm in my graphing calculator. I just typed those in. If you need to follow along what numbers I hit to put those, that is this stream right here down in the key press history. So now I'm going to hit graph and see what I get. So there we go. Now looking at this, there is obviously one intersection point right here. And it looks like there might be one right here. So let's find the obvious one first, right there. So I'm going to do second, trace, intersect. Let's arrow over. We're close-ish. Enter. We want close on the second curve. Enter. Don't need to really guess. So there it is. We want to go to 3 decimal points. You can round or truncate. I would highly suggest you truncate, because if you accidentally round wrong, the AP grader will mark it wrong for that silly rounding error. So just get used to truncating it. So negative 0.890. Now when it says solve, you just want the x value. If it says zeros, you just want the x value. You only want both if it asks for the point of intersection, then you do both. So we've got that one right there. Now we go back to our graphing calculator. I'm not sure about this point. That is super, super close. So I'm going to zoom into my window a little bit. I'm going to change my x window from 2 to 3 and my y from 3 to 5. So I hit window, x goes from 2 to 3, and y goes from 3 to 5. To zoom in on this and look at it a little better. Oops, what did I do wrong? I think I did something wrong. Let's see what I did. From 1 to... Oh, from 1 to 2. There we go. X should be from 1 to 2, and then from 3 to 5. There we go. Let's try that. There it is. So I zoomed into that part of the graph, and I can look at this. When I zoom in, those two pieces get really close, but doesn't look like they actually intersect, which means my only solution is that one, because the other ones never actually intersected and crossed. Hopefully that helps. In the next video, we will do 36 and 46. Those are the next most requested.